We have an interesting workshop lined up today for you all from Pivot. Today we are going to talk about our usual topic, which is career transitions, but from a different angle, because we have three very special guests, people who have actually lived, breathed, and slept this journey in terms of transitioning from one role to another very recently, and they did it with us. So we are very excited to have them behind the stage. They'll be coming on the stage very soon. And I think this session is going to be relevant for anyone who is thinking about how to navigate the current job market, which is not extremely employee or candidate friendly. So if you are thinking about jumping into the market and exploring a new role or a domain or industry, or you have already been in the trenches of the market and are struggling to get more interviews or land your job, for any of you this will be a relevant session. So please stay while I bring our guests to the stage, and then we will kick this off very soon. All right, so we have Tanushree, who goes by Tashi, and we have Siddharth with us. I believe our third speaker, which is Hemanth, he should be joining very soon. But welcome, Siddharth and Tashi. Thank you so much for doing this. Really excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun. Thanks for having us here.
Absolutely. So, just to get things started, what we can do is a quick round of intros. I can actually go first and talk about what we do at Pivot. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Arjun, and I'm the founder at Pivot. What we focus on is helping people make smooth and successful career transitions, and we do it for different types of goals. So, it could be, let's say, just a job switch in the same field, or it could be changing your domain, your industry, your level in the organization, or sometimes even countries, as Siddharth will tell us in a little bit. So excited to discuss everything related to transitions and more during this session. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tashi first. Tashi, if you could share a bit about yourself and what you're planning to do in the next phase of your career, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you so much, Arjun, first of all, for having me. And just welcome to all the people who are here to hear about the career transitions. I'm sure that there must be a thought process that's running in your head that brings you to this conversation. So I do hope that through this conversation, we're able to answer everything for you. Just a little bit about me. In my last stint, I was heading HR for an architectural firm. I've had 15 years of experience working in different functions of HR. I've made close to about 3 career transitions already yet. And this, I'm hoping, is the final career transition that I plan to make. But I always say never. So hopefully through this journey of, next 1 hour, we're going to understand a lot more about my work and what I bring to the table. Of course, my next venture is about building emotional intelligence and a consultancy that basically helps you build emotional intelligence, because I really believe that that's one skill that sails you through everything in life, right? And that's the only thing that we've not been taught even in school or in colleges or anywhere else. So I'm looking at how do I build this thing in a structured way for people who've not had exposure to it, and that's the whole venture about. How did that happen? I think we'll go through this journey as we answer questions. So thank you, Arjun. Over to the other speakers as well. Hi, Hemant.
Hi, Tanushree.
Hi, Hemant. Glad to have you here. And we are just doing a
Yeah.
quick round of intros, Hemant. So we had Tashi go first.
Okay.
I
Hi,
will
Tashi.
have Siddharth go next, if that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So thanks, Arjun, for that. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here. So before, just a quick intro about me is that I've worked in 3 different industries from the start of my career. I was in fintech, I was in cybersecurity, I was in marketing analytics. Right now, I'm in loyalty, but it might be that I've been in different industries in a straightforward way, but the journey has never been such. I've gone reverse, I've gone forward, I've gone reverse again. So I've done all that. I've started as a customer success key account manager. Then I've gone into product, and then I've gone into um, further into support and customer success, and now I'm back into customer success in every aspect. So, and the last 1 year I've been a founder. I've done a ventures. I've done couple over there. I've done a personal venture for selling foods, and also I have done a venture to related to travel, but it's not kicked off as such. But and that's when I've come across Pivot and Arjun's, who was very nice enough. Just happy to communicate with him all throughout, and sort of an inspiration during the journey.
Let's just put a disclaimer. I'm not paying you to say that.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no payment here.
All right.
Yeah,
Great.
but yeah, that's how the journey is. I mean, I think the conclusion is that no journey is straightforward. Everybody in this Instagram world would think that it's all hula and have a FOMO,
Yeah.
but it's not, and it's forward and reverse. The day it starts. So that's
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Siddharth.
thank you.
Glad to have you here. And I think we'll go ahead with Hemant next. Hemant, please go ahead and share a
Yeah,
bit about yourself.
sure. Hi, Arjun. Hi, Tashi. Hi, Siddharth. Nice to meet you in this way. And hi for the other audience who are online. So my journey was little bit different, I would say. I started my entrepreneurship right from my college. Accidental entrepreneur, I would say. I was a core embedded developer. With the time, I have built the product as a prototype. It went as a product. Eventually, we were able to sell it completely bootstrap, learn sales in the most hard way, I would say. It was a roller coaster journey at the time. Post that, COVID hit it, and of course, great learnings, I would say. And then I joined First Cry. There I was running as a product manager for 2 years. Once again, felt the saturation. Then I thought, okay, let me try venturing into a different venture, Reliance Jewels. 6 months I worked there, but of course, the company is so huge. Like the development scope would be very less. So then I felt like maybe I need to enter an area where like I mean, so once again, it was a dilemma period for me. Should I leave this because it's just 6 months? I mean, making a right decision because I already have been an entrepreneur for years. So at the time, I reached out to Arjun and Pivot team members. So got a good insights over there to make my decision straightforward. So with that, now I can see in Flipkart as a product manager rolling out very good, interesting products. I would say for this big build day.
Flipkart's actually coming out with a lot of new products. I've been seeing
Yes.
a lot of stuff in news and social media.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
we
I'm
also
sure
get to see the mastermind behind it.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's all after you
Yeah.
have joined Flipkart.
No, yeah, like fortunately, I got a chance to work on building a new products. Basically, like in Flipkart, the thing is like just like Reliance, they also have a lot of products. But fortunately, the modules which I entered completely were building it from scratch. Yeah, definitely by BBD, we will be able to come up with some interesting product. I would say.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. So let's get started. I'm really excited to kick this off. I've worked personally with each of you, and I do know your journeys, from sort of both bird's eye view and granular level. So I'm really excited to bring the nuances out in this session. The first thing that I want to address is, though, not necessarily related to your journey, because I want to set up the context for our audience here, which is that the current job market, it feels a little different. And when I say current, I mean the last 2 years of the job market. They feel a little different than most other job markets. And I hope I'm not the one who's just saying that, because I've been hearing that from a lot of people who we work with, right? So maybe we can start with Tashi, your thoughts on, as you have been, considering your next steps in your career, and probably have had multiple conversations at Pivot, outside of Pivot as well. How would you describe the current job market in relation to most other job markets? What's your experience been?
So, Arjun, I think in a lot of ways, the current job market is very similar to what has always been. And in a lot of ways, it has changed drastically, right? From the point of view of the kind of skills that are required now and the amount of pushing yourself out of the comfort zone of everything that you've been doing is what today's job market is really demanding you to do, right? So if you're not someone who's constantly reinventing yourself and who's not been reinventing yourself, the chances of you dying out are much higher, right? But having said that, um, I also see a lot of people saying, hey, AI is going to take away our jobs. But let me also take you back a few years, when automation first came and IT first came into being, and everybody said, this is going to take away our jobs, right? But what it ended up doing is actually just creating more jobs.
No.
If you ask me, it expanded the way the world was working. It brought in so much globalization. I don't know what's the next step. Maybe we'll just go to the moon and start setting up. I don't know. Okay. But I'm damn sure that AI is going to end up creating a lot more jobs than it's going to take away. The only thing that it's possibly going to do is, this is like that lax period in between where we're all figuring out how we're going to use AI, how we're going to upskill ourselves. There's a big gap between the talent needed and the talent that is existing. So the problem is not with the number of jobs that are not there, but the problem is the mismatch of skills that is required. And I'm sure if we're able to find a way to reskill ourselves and reinvent ourselves, I think we'll be hitting the top of the curve very soon. The more time you take, I'm guessing the more you're going to be lagging behind, right? So this is actually the right time for a lot of people to capitalize on this opportunity, if you ask me. I see this
Yeah.
as an opportunity and not really a gap in the market, because if you're someone who's been reinventing yourself throughout your career, this time is going to pay off. Okay. But if you're someone who is a little lagging behind in that, then yes, this time is going to be challenging for you. So you sort of have to see, but doesn't mean that you can't step up and push faster than the others. Sometimes there are some people who just wake up suddenly and they're like, let's reinvent, and then they transform completely the next morning when they wake up. I've seen cases like that as well. And there are a lot
Yeah.
of people who grow slowly, right?
Yeah.
So it depends on who you are, understanding where you stand versus what the market needs, and basically reinventing yourself. I think that's what this whole phase is about. And if someone can do this well, um, I really think that this is going to create a lot more opportunities than it's going to take away.
I think that's a great way to set this context up, because I think a lot of people are actually very fearful about the current market. And to be honest, I think there are many people who
Right.
have faced
Yes.
a lot of
And
challenges
rightly
as
so.
well.
Rightly so. I mean, I'm not going to deny that fear doesn't exist, right? We're all
Yeah.
fearful. I mean, if you remember my first conversations with you, Arjun, I'm not sure about Hemanth and Siddharth, but maybe you came from that space too. But when I first came and I was looking at a career transition, I was confused as hell. And forget confused, I was fearful. I wasn't even sure if I was going to find my next space yet, right? But it takes a
Right.
little bit of patience, it takes a little bit of work, it takes a little bit of sitting down with yourself to ask yourself what you really want to do, right? I think
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
that's the whole part about reinventing. It's never easy. It's never easy,
Yep.
but it's the most rewarding thing you can do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll try to bring in Siddharth and Hemant into the conversation as well. So Siddharth, you have had a unique journey as well over the last few months or maybe the year, and I'd love to obviously uncover that. But again, from your perspective, because your journey was slightly different than perhaps other people, country-related change,
Yeah,
entrepreneur to full-time job. I mean, there are multiple dimensions that you were
yeah.
trying to traverse at the same time, especially in the current job market. So, what was your experience apart from the part which Tashi has just described, which I think I resonate. I'm sure a lot of people resonate with. How difficult do you think the market was for you to navigate, and what aspects do you feel were different than usual transitions?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think how many people are in the international market in this audience, but yeah, like you've said, I've seen the international market as well, and I've seen here as well. The aspect that the overall I've covered, adding to Tashi's points that she mentioned, it's changed. The market has changed, yet it remains the same. I'll add on to that, but the what's difficult right now is for a person, I mean, in this era, to manage both personal and the professional requirements. At the end of the day, we all are human. It comes out that with so much automation from over these years, she's rightly put that before, it was when IT came in, there was the new transition and all, but the thing is that we're heading towards a pinnacle of automation. And when you're looking at that pinnacle of automation, it tends to keep a lot of people aside. And I think the market is applying more to the 80-20 principle, if you're aware. So a lot of 20% of the entire world is operating the uh, whole of wealth and automation. So they're building it to that level. So everybody's trying to minimize workforce. I mean, that's what we hear in the news. You can correct me with data facts later, but that's what's sort of puts fear in you. So you'd end up working more than your humane capabilities allow you to. So your brain is being forced to push that, and that's all that's in the present job market. I think a lot of people would agree. I mean, if people are there in the top positions, they would say it's okay, it's the same. But I think a lot of people, 80% of the people, would
Yeah.
definitely say your work is increased, you're having to learn a lot, upskill, and even however upskilling you do, it's not enough. So you tend to reach a limit. I mean, automation will have no limits, but your brain will, and your personal will.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what I feel. It's good. I mean, it's rightly put by Tashi that it's all about reinventing and that, but it's also about where is the endpoint. I mean, where when do you um do that? So keeping that in mind, I think you need to have a strategic journey. I That's what I've learned with you also, Arjun. I mean, I've tried to make it more strategic. It's been difficult. I'm still not made it perfect, but yeah, it's always supposed to be strategic and value your personal life. I think that's at the end of the day that you need and
Yeah.
you can do without.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. I don't think many people bring that up in these kind of conversations enough, where we talk about the mental, emotional, physical toll that job search and transitions can take place, especially when you are navigating different types of changes in your life, right? For example, you're upskilling, you're applying to jobs, you're managing your personal life, uh, you're managing your health, hobbies, relationships. It can be a lot. It can be a lot, and especially we have seen, not with you all, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but we have actually seen some folks applying to 300 jobs, 400 jobs, 1,000 jobs. There's a gentleman who came to me for the first time, and we spoke just, I think, a month or two ago. And he told me he had applied to about 3,000 plus jobs in a year and heard back from less than 10 companies. And I mean, that's just so much mental toll and effort that it is something that needs to be addressed. This is not sustainable. So Siddharth, I appreciate, I mean, you bringing this up, because while there are a lot of positives of technological advancement and upskilling, I think we need to figure out how we can, at least make transitions happen where people don't burn out completely.
Yeah.
So makes a lot of sense. Thanks for highlighting that. Hemant, I think if you could share your journey as well a little bit, that would be great with
Sure.
regard to the current job market specifically.
Sure. So it was like this. In my case, I would say it is a different journey. Since I just joined, like in the AI market only, I moved to Reliance. So there, the ecosystem was different. My challenges were different. My thought process of why moving out was different. But once again, as you said, like the fear in the market was very high. Even when I was talking to a couple of my peers or colleagues who are my ex-friends and all, like that, all these people have suggested, Hemant, you recently switched, and once again you're thinking to re-switch, which is not a good on resume as well as in the current market. Even the first switch itself, like people were finding me very crazy. So that, of course, all the times I always use it to have my own calculations. But once again, like that creates a different fear altogether. Am I taking a wrong decision or something? So at the time, I would definitely say yes. AI is actually taking, as Tasha already mentioned, it's all about, I would say, things in this way. When computers were introduced in the banking system, people thought like definitely the banking system, the employees will collapse and all. But in reality, if we see today, every small 10 rupees chai transaction we are doing online. So it actually increased the transactions, it was never. To be honest, even
Yeah.
in Flipkart today, one of my module which I look at is how can I automate the GST transaction system so that the reconciliation can happen, because here we do lakhs of transactions happen, we deal with crowds of sellers, a lot of very heavy data. So this actually, now I can see like a couple of engineers working on this. Earlier it was just a bunch of finance team just doing on an excel. So the only thing which I can see here is, yes, it has created a different set of jobs, but in a different arena. It's not for accountants alone. Now this has created jobs for the right from the infosec team to the engineers team, everyone, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's all
Hemant,
about, we
just
need to find that. Yeah.
yeah, no, I think valid point. I just have a follow-up question for you since you have more of a tech background out of everybody present in the room right now. Um,
Okay.
there's a lot of news coming from the West, especially from US, where these mass layoffs are still happening.
Mm.
Microsoft just did 6,000, which was 3% of the workforce, and they've done that for I think the second or third year in a row, something like that,
Yes.
right? So these layoffs have happened for the last 2 years, and one of the things that a lot of the tech leaders are saying is, see, they are profitable companies. It's not like they're struggling in any form or fashion. So typically, layoffs used to happen when companies were struggling, they couldn't keep so many employees. Now, what's happening? One of the things companies are saying, especially the tech companies, that we don't need that many engineers, we don't need that many employees. Like AI can write almost as good of a code as the top 200 engineers present in the world today, right? That's what
Correct.
the benchmark is said. So can you help me understand that part, right? Like when we are talking about there are going to be a lot of new jobs that are invented, but at the same time we are seeing companies doing repetitive layoffs again and
Correct.
again. How does how do you see that unfolding from a job market perspective, like the demand and supply for talent?
So it is like this, Arjun. I completely agree. Today, having this AI tools, for example, even today, while writing an email to the code, also sometimes when we have a doubt of an API, also to understand, we just keep it to the ChatGPT and see the how the payload is happening, how the response is happening. Earlier, like only a super good coder can do it. Today, I can bring a mediocre or like the just learning wala phase guy to get it done. But at the same time, like, yes, I completely agree, even though they are profitable, they are not laying off. See, not every layoff I can justify, but couple of things what I can understand is the see, every profession needs transition, not just like technology, I would say. The way you are selling in retail category as well. Earlier the way of sales were different. Today the way of a kirana store selling things has become different. The way shopping malls have come in place, the way they showcase the product, the way they use digital influencers or Instagram people to sell their products or like advertise them. The same way here also, the tech, especially tech, is an industry where you should always be on the toes to learn the next big technology. It is always like this, right? And there was a time when people have said big data is the big thing, SAP has been the main thing, and now this is a system, I would say, where learning or the art of using the AI tools is most required, I would say. Because even today in Flipkart we see, like, we were given like a lot of AI tools. It's like companies saying, "Ki, boss, why don't you people try?" And they are asking to, how can you fast track the process?
Right.
So that is the goal. So someone who is ready to adopt, I believe, like, yes, they will definitely have a market. Someone who is little sitting in the old school might face a challenge for sure.
Got it.
So,
Fair enough.
Arjun,
Fair enough.
if you may allow, I just want to add like a little perspective to what Hemant said. I think he very rightly pointed a lot of things out. But I think what we don't understand about, and this is the problem with this bite sized information that we received today, right? 6,000 layoffs from Microsoft. Out of how much workforce? Right? They have a few lakh people across the world. Why did
Yeah,
they
it's a
lay off?
3% of the. It was
Yeah,
three
it's a
percent.
3% of the workforce, right? Who is that 3% of the workforce who's laid out? Why were they laid off versus the other 97% who's not laid off? Right? So, if AI is going to really take away jobs at scale at the which people are fearing it will, then why only 3%? Is my question. Like if you normally see and if you follow, like, if you understand how the bell curve works in an organization, typically at any given point in time, we anyway lay off 5% of the people, the bottom performers. If you ask me, as an HR, that has been like a practice. Now you're laying off 3% of the people. Maybe the reason that you're giving them is probably different, but the reason is still underperformance, if you ask me. Yeah. So, the idea is that when you're consuming this bite-sized information, it's also important for you to go down 3 steps below that and say, why is this happening? What is happening? What are the trends? And okay, it's a reality. It could hit me one day, but what can I do so that it doesn't hit me? Right?
Right.
I think that's the way of looking at some of this information instead of creating a frenzy about it and saying that, hey, AI is going to take away jobs. This part of layoff is something that nobody understands, I guess. And this is what we really need to understand. What is the layoff and why does it happen? I don't think companies are going to stop needing people. This world is made of people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Taji, I think very valid points. I agree with a lot of stuff you said. Just before we go into the next part of this discussion, I think there are, tech entrepreneurs like Mark Zuckerberg and Bezos and, people like, I think Siddharth was talking about, the 20% kind of creating the automation and the new tech. They themselves have said this, right? Like, we won't be needing as many engineers going forward. Like, they have said these in interviews and stuff. So I think you're right. Reinvention is needed. AI will create new jobs, and people will still be working for many, many eons to come. But it is different than the past layoffs. It is different than past kind of layoffs that even Microsoft has done. So, for example, this was the second largest layoff ever to happen at Microsoft, right? At a time when they are performing at their peak, they are not. Their performance hasn't declined. So that's what's unique. But anyways, let's move to the next part because I think the next part is really interesting. And Tashi, you had already touched upon this earlier, so maybe we can start with you on this. You said when you first started thinking about your transition, there was a lot of confusion. There was so many different data points and decisions that you had to make, and you were somewhat confused and fearful, as you said. So this is something that I am 100% sure a lot of people have gone through, right? They may not say it outright, but they are feeling it and they are thinking about it. So can you tell me a little bit about how did you go from being in that state to making an informed and confident decision? What made you feel like, okay, I shouldn't necessarily stay in HR leadership roles, I want to start something of my own?
So, okay, Arjun, here's the thing, right? One is I don't want to boast about it, but I just think that naturally I have slightly higher EQ, right? So I understand and I talk to my emotions a lot better than most people I've known within my age and my circle, which is also the reason why I decided to start something like this, saying that, I learned it in a very unstructured way because maybe I was naturally inclined to it. But how do I put a structure to this whole thing for someone who's maybe not naturally inclined to it, which is where I started from. But if you ask me, each career transition has been the same. It starts with fear, it starts with anxiety, it starts with saying, or with like something inside you saying that you're not in the right place, right? And most people, what happens is in this stage, they get scared of that voice and they give in to the fear. The idea is to learn to speak to your fear, right? Why are you fearful? Is because you probably don't have clarity, right? Once you get clarity, the fear is going to go away. Why are you anxious? Is because maybe you don't have enough information to tell yourself that it's okay, right? How do you get rid of the anxiety? Is to inform yourself more, right? Is to pick up the right kind of information, go deeper with the information, and then you start seeing how the anxiety also starts vanishing, right? So it's everything that you're feeling. The most important part is to one, understand and tag what you're feeling. Once you've tagged what you're feeling, understand why you're feeling that, and then address it that way, right? Sometimes it's an easy answer because like I said, I've had like 3 career transitions. The first 2 were very easy. This one was the most difficult because this one was literally pushing me out of every possible comfort zone I've been in, right? I've always been like, I don't want to sell. Now, as an entrepreneur, I don't start my business without having to sell. Okay. So that's one thing I've been running away from. But I said, okay, you know what? One, I'm going to take it as it comes. Second, I'm also going to see what it takes to sell. Why am I scared of selling? What about selling is scaring me off, right? Sometimes it's just the fact that I think that, and I always thought that maybe I'm not someone who can network well, right? And I think in my conversations with you and with like a few other people, you guys made me realize that my network is actually very,
I
very
still
clear.
remember, I still remember when you said that to me that I'm not good at networking. And that was after 15, 20 minutes of you explaining to me how you were networking so well. And I was like, there's
Yeah.
something wrong here. She
Yeah.
just doesn't know that she's already networking really well. So
Yeah, and
she's
you
a
know,
great networker.
it's not even about the network. I think it's the relationships, because I still know that, if I let's say put out a problem to a few people that I know, there's no way that those few people are not going to come to help me out. Right.
Right.
So I think that is the part that I didn't know how to leverage. So I think that's very, very important for you to understand what are your strengths and what are some places where you need to improve. Right.
Yep.
Sometimes you have resources right at the back of your hand, but you just don't know they exist and you don't know how to use them. So I think that's one thing that really helps. uh, Second, you can't figure everything by yourself. Let me just tell you that you can't. You sometimes just have to come and be able to be fully vulnerable with somebody for them to be able to show you the mirror. For example, when I came to you, Arjun, it was very difficult for me to come out and say, hey, in 15 years of my career of being an HR and of interviewing and interacting with all the possible leaders, I still say I don't have a network, I don't have connections, right? It takes a lot of vulnerability. So it's important to know that you can't have everything figured out by yourself. Sometimes you need help, and it's okay to go ahead and seek help to do that. So these are some things that will help you to make that transition, to navigate that emotional space of all the difficult decisions, not just career, but let's say something happens in your family, you have a breakup, you're getting divorced, or whatever it is, right? This is the part that is really going to help you to
Right.
navigate all those difficult situations in your life, right? Even
Yep.
the happy situations, let me tell you, like, we make the biggest blunders of our life when we're at the peak. Yeah.
Yep.
So how to manage your peak and how to manage your lows. I think that's the most important skill that you're going to have to learn if you want to
Yeah.
get through any of these challenges that we face. The market is so ambiguous, right? And
Right.
like you said, we don't know what is going to happen in the next 2-3 years, because we're all treading, like, everybody's saying we don't need engineers, but is anybody talking about what are we going to need? Nobody's talking about that, right? The point is, you may not need engineers, but you may need somebody else, right?
Absolutely. No,
So,
absolutely, Tashi. Yeah, you're right. I think, all the points are super valid, but the one point which I really liked is, you can't always do it on your own.
you can't. Yes,
You can't.
yes,
And I
yes.
think, that's something that is not very prevalent in the current market. To be very honest, I think less than 5% of people seek formal support, and less than maybe 25% of people, I've seen the stats, less than 25% of people seek any sort of support when they're facing a career related challenge. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about even unpaid support from friends, family,
Yes.
etc. So we just don't have it in our mindset. I think that we kind of almost worship this person, this idealistic person who suffers alone, who
Correct.
tackles all their problem by
Yes.
themselves,
Yes.
right? And that's something that I don't know if it's helpful to anybody, whether the person who's suffering or the person who could actually be impacted by, like a person landing a good job. Like, for example, Hemant has landed a job in Flipkart. It's not just that he is benefiting by being at Flipkart. Flipkart is benefiting by being,
Yeah. Yeah. Correct.
Hemant's employer. So I think it's a win-win, and I really hope that more people,
And I
seek
think the
support.
most important part is that, Arjun, sometimes, and this is the biggest thing. Like, I had, when I told people that I signed up with Pivot for career coaching, and I want to understand what next for me, they started laughing. They're like, because you're supposed to be a career coach, aren't you? So then why can't you coach yourself? I said, why a doctor will perform surgery on themselves? Is it? It's not
Very well
possible,
said. Very well
right?
said.
It's not possible.
Absolutely.
Like, you need a
Absolutely.
perspective. You always need another perspective. You don't have to become dependent on it. You don't have to leech on it. You don't have to, have parasitic behaviors. That is, but unapologetically ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll bring in Siddharth into this. Siddharth, I think for you, what I would love to know is, as you were transitioning, you also had these thoughts of, okay, I can aspire for certain of these kind of roles and different types of companies. And it was a cultural change as well. You're coming back to India and all of that.
Right.
So, what helped you at that time structure your thoughts into pursuing a specific goal?
So I'll put it this way that there might be many cases like me that I had to take my decisions based on personal uh, requirements, more shifting to Germany or coming back to India. Those were done basis that, and I'll tell you that, but I had to do with what best I had and try to make the best out of it. I think there's no right time for doing anything, but there's people might say this, but I think there's a large amount of luck that goes in it. I mean, a lot of you might say that being in the right place at the right time, getting the right job is also being in the right place at the right time. So that's sort of how it, at the end of the day, it works. I mean, you might be trying to not uh, go with the point, but it's always you have to do with the best way, with what you have, the best way you can do it. So it's with limit, even if you do your best with the limited resources you have, it might be the right time. So I think that's what I tried to do. I didn't, whatever situation I had to encounter, I tried to, be it in Germany, I had to network. Germany was a very, a graveyard, you could say, because you will never hear people coming back talking to you. I mean, it's sort of the most dullest place you can find, and you will literally cry in deep because you'll see that. I mean, even in India, you will see a lot of people respond back, if you know, even if they're rejected, but that's not the case there. So,
Hmm.
and it was almost for a long time that you will find that nobody responds and nobody gives you feedback, nobody tells you what to do. So it was that sort of a journey when I came to you. So I had
Yeah.
that, and I felt. I mean, it's just that you, at the end, it's your family and your wife that helps you go through that. But and then that's when you want to depend on someone professionally as well. Like that's when I came across Pivot to put in those words with action items, help me track them, a sort of a beacon of light, like I mentioned before. But that's how I felt actually, because it was. I think a lot of people do face it. We always talk about the uh, people who are working the workforce, but there's a lot of people, even the 6,400, like you mentioned in Microsoft, they're going to have a lot of tough times, right? And it's their, at the end, it's their journey that's very difficult to find the next opportunity. So
Yeah.
even if we talk about data at a whole and a lot of fancy numbers automation, where
Yeah.
getting apps that do this, do that, and quick commerce and all that, it takes a lot to get to that point. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I would say for now.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Just one more follow up there, Siddharth, right? In terms of the different career options specifically that you were considering, I think, I mean, we ended up at customer success. But I mean, you transitioned from being an entrepreneur and you had multiple types of skills, right? Not just customer centric, but let's say operations, let's say product related skills, et cetera, right? What made you feel that you wanted to go into customer success after you had a taste of so many different domains through entrepreneurship?
I think I try to choose what I do best. I somehow was always um, inclined to go towards different fields. I always had this at the end to always, over the course of this conversation that we were doing, it was always to upskill. I wanted to get better at um every skill that I do. Maybe big data, I try to do data analysis. I try to build. I try to do no code, low code, do a little bit of coding. I've tried to do everything, but at the end, I felt customer success was where I actually thrive. Maybe at the end of the day, that's something that gives me money, right? So that's what I chose. But
Yeah.
and rightly put, by everyone here, that it's always about upskilling. You never know what's ahead for everyone, any one of us. So I
Yeah.
think we just have to keep, reinventing the wheel or finding out new
Yeah.
things. going ahead with that.
Good point. I think that's a good point. So, Hemant, just before we start with you, I wanted to share with the audience that in case any of you are thinking about, a new career move, I think this would be a great time to ask questions. You can share it with us in chat. We will be taking it up for the speakers here very soon. And there are no bad questions. There are no stupid questions. All questions are fair questions, and so please feel free to share them. This would be the right time to ask. Hemant, I think with you also, question is similar, right? I mean, with you actually, things were a little more straightforward, if I'm not mistaken, because you were quite clear that you wanted to primarily continue as a product manager, and usually you were targeting the tech companies, and that's a range of people we get from somebody who is evaluating so many different options to people who are much more clear about what they want to pursue, and there's no right or wrong, right? Everybody has their journey. So I think what made you feel, compared to so many other people who might have said, okay, market's difficult right now, and I should be upskilling or reskilling myself, trying to get into AI/ML. What made you feel that no, I should kind of stick to what I have done, and not necessarily diversify or go into something drastically different?
So it is like this, Arjun, I would say. See, like already I have taken my transition in the first, I would say, because I started from a tier two college. I started as an entrepreneur, that too in the field of IoT, completely a bootstrap. I would say the very rarest combination, because generally EC students never go into their core, which is a very rare combination which I entered. And there also have developed a product. Started as an entrepreneur. So this combination itself is new. So even at the time, I thought, what else can go wrong? Let me give it a try. At max to max, the maximum failure can be a greatest learning. That was the one thing which I thought of. So with that, I just started. So lot of things, like as Tashi said, I am also very bad at selling. So I still remember how I have pitched to KCP Cements at the time, like say like how our LED board consumes low power. I literally explained everything, the theme of PWM modulation. So literally on their whiteboard. Then the vice president have said, "You literally explained the electronics concept to a mechanical guys who are in the safety department." So, but of course, the product they like it, the use cases were good. So very bad pitching, I would say at the time. But with the time that got improved by doing only, I would say. So then in the entire journey, when especially when I'm moving from Reliance to Flipkart, at the main transition which I reached out to, right? So there, which I thought of is, am I enjoying this role or not? Because how I enjoyed as an entrepreneur, although the finances were not good as a bootstrap, some days the bank is good, some days the finances are bad, but I used to enjoy developing the products. Of course, not every product get releases on the time and all. Lot of iterations happens. So what I saw is I enjoy the journey. If required, I just go and sit as a developer. If required, I run the SQL. If required, I even at the time of embedded systems, I use it to do the soldering, all the stuff. So that's how I used to enjoy. So I thought, okay, what is this? That something I'm missing is the agile or the speed, which I felt, of course, the organization style is different, and my style of work was different. So then I thought this mapping is different, whereas my work style. Of course, as a product manager, I completely agree. There also a lot of upskilling is required. Today, if you go and try, say, create a PRD to design a WhatsApp, within 2 minutes it will give you a very good wonderful PRD. So earlier the expectation of a product manager is to create a PRD and a wireframe. Today it is not the thing. How can you make, what is the metrics that you are going to see? How will you improve the product? So a lot of things comes in place. So only when you will have the access of handling these tools and using this AI, for example, there are a lot of AI tools where you can make the wireframes which within a couple of hours, I would say, not more than that. So there, once again, I need to learn those capabilities. Earlier, I have to rely on an front-end developer or something. Today, things got changed. So whenever there is a change,
Yeah.
I need to work on. That's how I use
Fair enough. I think that's a very important theme that we have been, kind of getting throughout the different points that all of you have made. Is no matter whether you are changing your field or staying within the same field. I think one thing that's clear is the absolute requirement to continuously upgrade your skills and make sure they stay aligned with the roles that you have in mind. And I think, Hemant, the point that you made about, you know, even though you might be in the right role at a company, but sometimes the culture fitment and the way things get done at a company may not be the best fit for you. And so I think that your reason for looking for a change was not necessarily that, hey, I'm not good at product, or there's something else out there that's better for me. It was more like I can do product even in a better way, but in a different environment that jives well with my
Yes.
capabilities. And I think you talked about agility and all that stuff. So I think that's very well pointed out. Um, I think we'll start taking some questions, even though I want to cover one more discussion point with all three of you. But given that we have been getting some questions here, we can get started with one. This one that we have, it's not necessarily a question, but I think it could be considered something that one of you can maybe help the gentleman with. So Manoj has asked about the fact that he's currently trying to transition from more of a technical, like a developer role, into more of a managerial role, right? I think, Hemant, because you have that, technical background, you've also now transitioned into product management. I think, Tashi, you have, from an HR perspective, probably helped a lot of your colleagues understand how to grow in their careers, right, over a period of time. Either one of you, feel free to perhaps take this
I think
up
we can both do
if
it.
you
Let
have a thought
Hemant
on
give the
this.
technical perspective, and I'll probably give the HR perspective, and maybe that'll help Manoj better. So, Hemant, go
Yeah, that's
ahead,
a very
please.
good idea.
Yeah, sure, Tashi. So, Arjun, I would say, since the question is from Manoj, let me tell him. So, it is like this good that he is already a tech developer. He has a very good chances, I would say, because that transition, like, whenever, like, especially these roles, like the project manager or the product manager, right? The expectation would be you should be knowing the product very clearly, because project manager, of course, in India, the slight difference, people, I mean, I see that disturbance is still there, I would say. Project manager is more worried about the timelines and how can he get the resources and all. This is the side. Whereas the product manager, his KPI will be little different. How can he improve the product? What is the metrics he will be looking at it? What is the goal of the product? So these things, although these things sit side by side. So Manoj, first I would say you try to understand which is the role which is more interesting for you. Although these two roles sit side to side, but I would say the working is entirely different. In one case, it's all about the timelines and all. In the other case, it's all about the metrics. So, which is something you are interested with? That you should figure it out. And two, in parallel, since you are already a tech developer, I mean, you are working as a developer and all, try iterating some small products. Maybe you can sit with your product manager or the project manager, sit with them. Although officially you are not that guy, but maybe try doing that stuff. So eventually, if your skill set is matching, you yourself will understand what is that something is missing. You can upskill, and within no time, you yourself. And generally, companies always try to see the product managers and project managers to be coming from the same team. That would be actually a benefit for them.
Yep.
So
Got
this
it.
is
Tashi, you want to
Sure.
share?
So I think, whenever
Yep.
anybody would come to me for, let's say, a career transition, right? When I was in the company as an HR and they would come and tell me that we want to shift roles, right? My first question would be, why do you want to shift a role, right? And I see Manoj answering something like, I have inclination towards making strategy rather than writing the code. I don't know what. So, first, answer for yourself, what about making the strategy is actually something that's important to you, right? And why do you say that you're inclined towards making the strategy? Because, I see a lot of people, and honestly, I don't know if that's the case with you, Manoj, but this is a part that I would like to call out is that if you think that writing the code has gotten boring and that's why you want to move to strategy, let me tell you, strategy will also get boring, right? Everything will get boring. And if it is the fact that you're bored with writing the code, then maybe that's where you need to reinvent on how you're going to bring the fun back into your work. And that's a different thing from moving your role versus moving the way you do your role, right? That's why you decide. Now let's say you're genuinely interested in moving into strategy and you have like five real solid reasons to say I want to move into strategy. Then maybe you should look at what is it going to take. One, you'll have to start doing mini projects which are outside your comfort zone, which are more than your writing the code, so that it gives someone the comfort to say, yeah, the person is inclined, they've put in their share of efforts, and then I'm sure you'll find someone who will be willing to take that bet on you, versus someone who will probably be like, I have to make the person scale from 0 to 100 versus I have to make the person scale from 80 to 100. Your chances are a lot more. Your 0 to 80 journey you'll have to do on your own. That 80 to 20, where you actually go and get hired into a role or move into a role, or your company decides to do it, is the part that is on someone else. But if you're not going to go ahead and say that I have done this to make sure that I can move into strategy, and that effort has to literally be unpaid for a lot of time. Yeah, nobody, I mean, people are going to give you an opportunity, and that's how you have to look at it, rather than say that I have to be paid for it from day one. Because a lot of roles that I moved into, I started creating a precursor at least 2 years in advance. Right. For example, I moved from a generalist HR role into a talent management role. I had to do three projects which were full-fledged talent management with the talent management team of one company, and then another company took a bet on me. Right. So it's not even within the same company. That so you have to
Right.
show the inclination by showing the efforts. That's the most important part. You have to show the experience that you can actually do it. You have to show that you have studied it, rather than just saying I'm interested in strategy versus writing a code. So your whys have to be very clear and thought through, and it's only then when someone will take a bet on you.
I think that's really impactful advice. And I think going deeper, as Tashi are pointing out about like why you want to do strategy and how can you actually start taking baby steps towards showcasing those skills rather than just listing them out
Yeah.
on a resume or on your LinkedIn. I think showcasing that this is how you have formulated strategy as a manager, I think that comes in much more handy rather than just pointing it out. So we have another question here, which I think would be good for Siddharth to take up. Siddharth, we have a question from Yashasvi, and Yashasvi is actually already working with Pivot. He has mentioned here. He's looking for customer success manager roles in B2B and fintech and insurtech, these kind of domains. I mean, this is right up your alley. You are in customer success. So can you talk a little bit more about what worked for you as you were looking for CSM roles? What kind of skills are companies specifically looking for? It's a relatively, I mean, it's been there for about a decade, but it's a relatively new role
Yeah.
compared to other ones, right? So I think your insights on this could be helpful.
Yeah. So to answer that, in terms of just reading up over here, sales and partnerships. Okay. Yeah. So I've worked in fintech as a KM as well. So basically, what you need for customer success is more of people skills, more of understanding your product, and so like product management, which comes in three. Like if you draw the Venn diagram, and you have product, tech, and all these, and product comes in
Yeah.
between. The CSMs also come right there next to them. So we work with product. We work with and similar to product management, companies have a expertise of putting CSM in various things. In some companies, CSMs are like uh, focus more on upselling, cross-selling, and just keeping the customer happy and having client engagement. Others, for now, like for my recent roles and my present role, we're focused on delivery and project management. So
Got it.
it's all that if you're good with keeping your customer happy, at the end of the day, it's doing whatever you're required to do to keep the customer happy, because it's always like you're with a hose on the day, on the start of the day. So you'll have to, because you'll have to manage the client moods, the requirements, the changing aspects, and
Yeah.
it's always keeping on your toes. So
Yeah.
you would be required to expect that in a key account manager or customer success role. And
Yeah. So just one follow up there. What helped you, according to you? I mean, it's not always easy to perceive these things, but what did you think like helped you actually land your current role amongst like hundreds of other customer success candidates who were probably applying to that role?
I think I've tried to put like I said over the start, I've done various roles. What everyone when you're applying for a customer success job, they would the person interviewer would always want to know how dynamic are you, like what can you do this, can you keep the customer happy, can you um, how would you do this differently to the most craziest of the customer. So whatever you do, I think customer success, to come into customer success as a product manager or as an IT guy or as a any person or an HR or anyone might have done a lot of stakeholder management. You might have managed different people, different aspects in different situations. So being able to uh, explain that to the interviewer, that I think will work well. And whatever other skills are just an add-on. So you need to be able to manage all types of people. So as a customer success, you need to be able to manage UX, product, tech, customer side, the same roles. So you need to be able to manage multiple
Hmm.
people, and that's I think the most important skill.
Got it. All right, let's take up the next one here. And yeah, I might just start by sharing my quick thoughts on this one. This is from Shankar. Um, Basically, he has 2 years of experience. There are some layoffs happening apparently on the team, and he is wondering whether he would be part of the, the headcount loss that happens, and so how to survive this situation if there is a layoff. Any of you feel free to chime in after me. What I would suggest, Shankar, I think number one is, rather than feeling fearful and kind of anticipating whether it's happening or not, I think there are going to be certain signs that will make it clear if you're part of this, headcount loss, meaning if you're part of the layoff or not. Usually, you will see that you're not getting new projects, you're not getting more work from your manager. There's going to be a change in the way people are communicating with you, especially your core team or your manager. You will start noticing those little things. But that's just about the signs, right? And I wouldn't suggest going too deep into guessing whether you're going to be laid off or not. I think the thing you should focus on is two things. One is continue to give your best at your day to day job. That means don't let your performance start suffering just because there are layoffs happening and you're thinking that you might be part of the chopping block. But the other thing, the more important thing is, in case there is a small chance that you might be laid off or the company is going to do further round of layoffs in the near future, which has happened with many companies, you might want to think about your next steps. So, for example, everybody here has talked about how important it is to continuously upgrade your skills, right? Every single person, Hemant, Tashi, Siddharth, all of them have talked about it. So think about, if you are in, let's say, data analytics or whatever role it is that you're in, what can you do to keep yourself at the forefront of the job market when it comes to skill requirements? Second thing is, think about, I would say, start investing in networking. Start talking to people within your network and start connecting with people outside your network who are working at your target companies. It takes a lot of time to get the hang of it. People are not going to always respond to you right away. And you might want to give that a shot as soon as possible. There are many other things that you can do, but I think these two things take the most amount of time to prepare and to see some efforts come to fruition. So I would suggest start thinking about these two things at least. Is there anything else that any of you would like to add here?
So, yes, I mean, Arjun, if it's okay, I could give a little bit of an insight. And Shankar, this may be a little hard hitting, but take it with a pinch of salt, because I genuinely mean to give you advice that you should look at for your career, right? Um, the idea is, one, that did the manager come and tell you that there are going to be displacements, versus did they address the whole team saying that there are going to be displacements and you took it personally, right? These are two different things. If your managers come and told you that there are going to be displacements, in all probabilities you're on that list. Accept it. The sooner you accept it, the easier it is going to be for you to deal with it, right? If it's to the whole team, you may or may not be a part of it. And what you can do, and Arjun, I think, rightly said, um, how do you make sure that you stay relevant in the team? That's one thing that you can do. Second, start building network, even outside, but most importantly, keep reskilling yourself. So whether within the organization or outside the organization, it's going to help you. But the most important part is that if you're fearful of being laid off, then there is a real reason for you to be fearful of, right? And now you need to figure that the fear is something that your manager has instilled in you, or is it something that comes from inside of you? If your manager has instilled that fear in you, um, prepare yourself, right? If it is something that's coming from within because of your past experiences with other people, um, then it's a different way of dealing with it altogether, right? But this is how much I can tell you. It may be slightly hard hitting for you right now, but I just hope you understand that it comes from a place of maybe just preparing you already and not really to like do anything else right now about
Yeah,
it.
prepare for the worst, hope for the best, right? I
Yes,
think that's the
yes, yeah.
strategy. Absolutely. Well, I know we have gone slightly over our time here, so I think we should start wrapping things up. There were actually a couple of other questions as well, but I don't think we have much more time. Praful, I apologize. I see your question. I think there was one more earlier that I've missed from Pratap. Feel free to check out Pivot. The link to our website is in my signature here at the bottom. It's mypivot.work. You can also reach out to any of the three speakers on LinkedIn. You have Siddharth Arugula, you have Hemanth. Hemanth, can you just tell your surname as well?
Korukonda, Hemanth Korukonda.
Hemanth Korukonda, who's currently working at Flipkart. And then you have Tashi. Can you just
It's
share your full
Tanush.
name as well?
It's so on LinkedIn you can find me as Tanushree Thawani.
Tashi, Tanushree Thawani. In case any of the speakers today you think could be helpful in, firstly understanding what you need to do to prepare for this journey ahead, and secondly whether Pivot could potentially be helpful for you, please feel free to reach out to them. And I really hope you got some good insights. I want to thank all the three speakers for, firstly, your honesty. I think all three of you were extremely honest and very, very, I would say, you kind of cut to the chase and got right to the point, which I always love in any conversation. So thank you so much for doing that, for not beating around the bush. I really hope the audience got some great insights that they can cover.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, Arjun, for having us. I think even in this conversation with the three of you, I think I've learned a lot, right? Some key points that Siddharth brought out, Hemant brought out, I think they were like aha moments for me, including, of course, you have always had aha moments with, so I'm going to keep that. But yes, I'd also like to thank Siddharth and Hemant for their time and for actually sharing their perspective, because that helps me as well.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
I
you.
hope you
Thank
have
you,
a
Arjun.
good rest
Thank
of
you,
your
Siddharth.
evening.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Tashi. Thank you, Siddharth.